I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senator Marsha Blackburn connected fentanyl deaths to border security on the Senate floor Monday. She accused the Biden administration of not being, quote, interested in securing the border. This comes as Republicans and Democrats are locking horns over Title 42, a Trump-era border policy that is set to be lifted later this month. Let's listen in for more from the Tennessee Republican.
Madam President.
The senator from Tennessee.
Thank you, Madam President. There was some sobering data that came out from the CDC last week. It was a new set of preliminary data on overdose deaths. Last year, we lost almost 108,000 people to the ravages of drug abuse. Almost 4,000 of that 108,000 were Tennesseans. Those 2021 numbers are the worst that we have ever seen, Madam President. And I'm concerned because it seems that my Democratic colleagues and their friends in the White House are not seeing the big picture on this issue. Now, the White House claims they have a plan to address the drug crisis in this country, but they've intentionally ignored a key vulnerability when they do this. It's as if they're turning a blind eye to a key component, a key contributing factor of this drug crisis, and they're refusing to talk about it. It's the reason that crime is on the rise in most of our American communities. It's also the reason it's easier for a drug dealer to get their hands on fentanyl than just about anything else. And it's the same reason that human traffickers now are pushing people, they're sex trafficking, gangs, labor gangs, into communities all across this country. Indeed, every town's a border town. Every state a border state, because of this key vulnerability. They don't want to talk about this because I don't think they want to admit that they have been so wrong. And of course, that vulnerability, whether you're talking about drugs, whether you're talking about crime in the streets, it all comes down to talking about that wide open southern border. Don't take my word for it. Go talk to sheriffs in Tennessee. They will tell you that that open border, they're seeing the results of that on their streets, in their counties. Indeed, one of the sheriffs I visited with last week said 80% of the drug overdoses, 80% of the apprehended drugs in their county, fentanyl. Why is it there? The southern border being wide open. So this is an area that Tennesseans are wanting to see something done. And they can't figure out why the Democrats won't make a priority of securing the southern border when they want to talk about issues that stem from what is transpiring at the southern border. They feel that the Democrats are deliberately sabotaging our economic recovery, our recovery from the pandemic, and they're making bad situations worse because they won't talk about the root causes. The Biden administration never was interested in securing the border. Indeed, he hasn't been to the border. In fact, their official policy from day one has been, let's make that southern border more insecure. Isn't that amazing? You have an administration, you have a DHS secretary that don't believe in a secure border. Now, the radical left didn't like the optics of border security, so Joe Biden stopped building the wall, even though everything is purchased and it is there, and the wall could be completed. He chose not to secure our border, and he stopped building the wall. The radical left wanted to change the definition of asylum without bothering to change the law, so Joe Biden threw away the Remain in Mexico policy. The radical left wanted their sanctuary cities back, so Joe Biden tied the hands of immigration officials. Go talk to them. They will tell you what they're no longer able to do, which is abiding by the rule of law, the laws that are on the books. With each executive order that he signed, Joe Biden sabotaged Border Patrol and law enforcement, putting Americans in danger, and turned even more vulnerable women and children into victims of the sex trafficking trade. You have to ask yourself whose side the Biden administration is actually on when it comes to the issues of crime, when it comes to the issue of protecting women and children. Because I can't think of a single law-abiding American who is better off for all of this. But I do know that the cartels are happy because they're the ones who control the southern border on that Mexico side. You cannot cross that border into the U.S. unless you have gone through the cartel. So they're having to work out a way to pay their fee to the cartel, endangering their lives, seeing drugs pushed into this country. Last year, Border Patrol intercepted thousands of pounds of deadly drugs and repeatedly interrupted equally deadly migrant trafficking operations. But we'll never be able to account for the gotaways who escaped into the country with their drugs and human cargo intact. The level of self-sabotage has a purpose. The Biden administration has made it clear that they're willing to risk lives and livelihoods to prove their commitment to what they are calling compassion. Let me ask you this, Madam President. What is compassionate about women being pushed into the sex trade, little girls being sex trafficked, children being thrown into gangs? What is compassionate about that? That is what is happening because of this open southern border. This is insanity. The cartels last year brought people from 160 different countries to our southern border. Those are stats from the Border Patrol. We know that right now they are anticipating bringing people in at the end of Title 42. They're already working globally, in order to hit these numbers. This is insanity. But according to the Biden administration, we can't secure the border and stop the flow of drugs, but the federal government can hand out fresh crack pipes to those with addiction. And as much as they tried to say, no, that was incorrect, we've all seen the photos. According to the Biden administration, we can't allow shipments of perfectly safe, foreign-made baby formula into American communities. We can't process those waivers, they say. That could possibly be dangerous. We can't get a baby formula plant open in Michigan because the FDA is busy. They have other priorities. Meanwhile, parents are scrambling, trying to find formula for babies that have to have specific formulas. This is not compassion. This is a tragedy. I saw a friend this weekend, Madam President. She calls herself independent-minded, leans more moderate Democrat. She said, you know, we have always been a government of, by, and for the people. But right now, what do we see happening? We see this government using people to get power for themselves. That's what's going on. People realize this administration is void of priorities. The saddest thing about all of this is that the Biden administration, I think, knows what needs to be done. Many of my colleagues and I have been talking about it, that there should be priorities to secure this nation and our sovereignty. Priority number one right now should be to keep Title 42 in place until three things happen. First, DHS needs to present a thorough and specific plan that will enable American officials to handle the anticipated 18,000 people per day that Border Patrol is saying will come to our border if those restrictions are lifted. Right now, it's about 6,000 people per day. Now, 18,000, I looked it up, Madam President. Illinois has 1,466 cities. 1,324 of those cities have 18,000 or fewer citizens. That is their population. So that is the equivalence that we are talking about. Our friend from Colorado was just on the floor. 482 cities there, 439 of them have 18,000 or fewer citizens. So we have Alaska. We have 355 cities in Alaska. 350 of them have 18,000 or fewer citizens. So it is like a new city of Alaska or Colorado or Illinois or Tennessee every single day. So DHS needs to come through. Second, Chairman Durbin must summon Secretary Mayorkas to a hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee so that we can subject that plan that has been missing to scrutiny. And third, they need to consult with Congress to give Border Patrol and law enforcement the manpower and resources they need to execute the plan. Then and only then should we consider Title 42. Priority number two is to stop playing politics and embrace President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. We know for a fact that it helped control the influx of asylum seekers, which in turn took the pressure off our limited resources at the border. And priority number three, the Biden administration must stop denying reality, finish building the wall, which is what Border Patrol has been asking for decades. Give them a physical barrier, give them more officers and agents, give them more technology so they can protect our nation and our citizens. That is how we would get that border under control. And as I said, Madam President, it affects crime in the streets, it affects drugs and fentanyl. This affects our citizens, our families that are heartbroken by loss of lives to drugs, to crime. There is a starting point, and there is a way to make a difference. But if this administration wants to do something about crime, if they want to do something about the drug crisis, they need to start it at the southern border. I yield the floor.